Past 8, time for Issues of the Day with the T-Radar joining us via live Skype video this morning. Good morning, T-Radar.
Well, good morning to you on this. Look, I don't know what it's out there. For a second I thought it was summer, but I look out my window now and I can see that it's clouded over.
Is it just? Yes, it's Bluebird Day out there in some parts of Auckland and all around the country. We're expecting crazy highs of like 27 degrees. It's very nice. Finally, it's arrived.
In fact, even yesterday I thought it's too hot.
Too hot? Okay.
Too hot.
Back to the default, please.
Yes, please. I was digging some soil, waging a war on terra firma, and I just said, it's too hot.
It's too hot. All right, well, let's kick off into some of these issues of the day. You'll have to explain this first one, because we fire through notes beforehand, but he's only just fired through the notes just then, and one of them is expensive shags. What are you talking about?
Look, every so often we all come across, I guess, an animal, a bird or something like that who's not in a sort of a fit state, and we all wonder what we should do with it. In this case, there was a little shag, a pied shag. Nice birds. You see them around all over the show, fairly common. Yeah. It clearly been injured in some kind of, bird injury type scenario, and this family of folk found it. They had the parents and the little kiddies, and the shag came wandering up like a little duck up the driveway, all skinny and frail. So they sort of fed it, and then they became concerned about what they were going to do with it. So they were sort of a couple of hours drive away from a bird sanctuary type place, and they ended up spending $2,000 on getting this shag helicoptered to the sanctuary to be sort of revived. You think that is an enormous amount of money to save a bird.
Could it not have gone by car, or it was in danger?
Well, no, I don't think it was in any sort of imminent danger. But I think it was a 2.5-hour ride to Thames.
Too long.
And then
too long.
So you're looking at you're looking at the best part of a day there and back to take this shag there. So clearly they thought that they would, expedite the situation and spend the money. And you're kind of torn about stories like this. You think, in between thinking, well, the incredible generosity of this family shaving this tiny and defenceless little bird, and, or failing that, cruel nature being allowed to run its course.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you say, it's a pretty common bird, yeah? We're not on the endangered species list here at all.
No, but I guess they had the kids there, and maybe the pest factor took hold. They didn't want to sort of upset the kiddies' holiday by having that. I think there was a cat hanging around as well, and I have a feeling that the bird, I think it was sort of it wasn't fully grown, so I don't think it sort of could fly off by itself. So, rather than sort of keeping it and rearing it for a few days on some fish and then eventually driving it back over, so the helicopter called in, probably for one of the more rare sort of emergency evacuations, I imagine they would be called to over a summer.
You've got to say, slightly more interesting story than the eventual leak of the teapot tape thingies.
Oh, I know. Were you as underwhelmed as I?
Fairly underwhelmed, of course. Must caution you, T-Radar, we cannot talk about the contents of this.
we can't even acknowledge the fact that we are talking about them. And I notice there's been a sort of a survey of media freedom. We used to pride ourselves on the freedom of our media. That has now dropped down. We've dropped down the rankings because of things like this teapot tape scenario. So you're very odd. Most of the sort of comments been on the fact that John Key actually does speak like John Key speaks.
Yeah. Well, he speaks like how perhaps you would imagine yourself talking in a cafe. Is that what you're saying?
I guess so. Yeah, he has a slightly odd way of speaking, but at the end of the day, nothing really sort of controversial or outrageous, and you do kind of wonder, what the principle of the entire thing was. Was it the fact that he was a little bit miffed about it actually being recorded in the first place, given there was nothing controversial, or was there more to it? Was it a sort of a clever ploy? But regardless, it's you're in the media, and you really do look forward to the release of things like this. You sort of, it's coming out. And then when I saw it on the interwebs, I must go and listen to that. I got sort of part way through it and went, this is the dullest thing I think I've ever heard.
You really send me the transcript later, please.
Exactly. God, I think I'd rather spend half an hour listening to JJ Feeney. And that's saying something, Wammo.
On to Australia, New South Wales police tattoos.
Yeah, look, I don't know if you've seen the large number of our men and women in blue, a lot of them sporting tattoos. Over in New South Wales, they've decided this is probably not an inappropriate, well, it is an inappropriate look for a police officer, so unless they can cover up their tattoos, they'll be denied admission into the police. Obviously, that's for people who are applying to get in. Of course, critics saying, look, that's ridiculous. I think people are fairly comfortable with tattoos these days. It's not as if, surely, if they're looking at character, if someone's got a whole lot of scribbles all over their face, I'm not talking moko or anything like that, but, there are various
Scribbles.
people who... Scribbles. We'll say scribbles. It's a technical term.
Yeah.
They may well perhaps have other issues that would mean they'd be banned from the police. But, kind of odd. Whereas over here, quite a different sort of scenario. We've spent... the better part of $1 million advertising for new recruits in the police.
Yeah.
And so you go out and you go, I think I'll be a recruit, and then only to get told at this point in time, we're not actually taking any. Just to put your name on the waiting list, and we'll give you a call when there's room.
That's right.
They're forced at full capacity.
There was a slight election issue that was brought up at one point. I think Phil Goff had up John Key about the fact that they won't be accepting any recruits, I think, first quarter of this year.
That's right, yeah, because I think the retention policy is such that police aren't currently retiring or resigning, and that may be due to the fact that it's a difficult employment market out there, and there might not be all that much else to go to, or perhaps they feel that for some reason they'll stay in. They've got a new commissioner who tends to call a spade, and occasionally if you follow the media, you can see some of his writings on his blog site are highlighted. He seems like a bit of a I guess what's the word? A frontline cop. He goes out there and he does the frontline stuff, and then he goes back and sort of takes his commissioner's chair. So yes, but nonetheless, clearly no one talking to the advertising agencies about this and saying, hey, look, maybe we shouldn't advertise if we can't actually accept anyone at this point in time.
Well, if indeed the police is a business, then I suppose the advertising is more of a branding exercise as opposed to a call to action.
I suppose so, and perhaps there'll be some people, they're looking for younger people thinking, maybe in a few years I might become a police person.
Yeah.
Have a better work story.
Yeah, indeed, a better work story. Talking about better work stories, what's this business with Pepsi with their strange ingredients?
Yeah, look, a bit of sort of a hoo-ha over there in America town at the moment. There's an Oklahoma lawmaker who's wanting to ban the use of fetuses in food. There's been a sort of a bit of an internet story around on the tubes about the fact that Pepsi is using aborted fetus products in its beverages.
Is that for real?
Yeah, well, in an odd kind of way. There's a sort of an artificial sweetener that was developed back in the 70s. They took I think a bit of some kidneys from an aborted fetus, and they used it to clone a line of cells that's used in biotech research, the end product of which is they've sort of developed this artificial taste testing cell, I suppose. And so if you draw a relatively long bow, if you're using this kind of artificial sweetener in Pepsi, you could say that it originated, way back when with cells that were cloned from the kidney of an aborted fetus. Obviously, some people would find this distasteful.
Yeah.
They're not grinding up pieces of fetus and putting it in the drink as flavouring as such. So obviously they want to change the law, but it's one of those sort of interesting things where you look at it and you think, what exactly, what do we want to use with our research? Do we want to use parts of this sort of material if the end product is going to be simply a sweeter carbonated beverage?
I guess both Pepsi and Coke have these kind of stories, don't they? I mean, with Coke, with the original recipe being having cocaine or some trace of something like that in there.
That's right, yes, and I think it was only a couple of weeks ago, Mountain Dew, a man found a mouse in a can of Mountain Dew and was suing them, and they said, that's not possible, because a mouse wouldn't have survived in a can of Mountain Dew. It would have actually dissolved. How do you fit... Eaten it away.
Oh, yeah, well, of course.
It's an unusual defence, Wammo.
Yeah, when it suits them, I suppose, isn't it?
Exactly, so goodness only knows what it does to your innards.
Yeah, that's something to leave on and think about there, I think, T-Radar. We'll leave you to
your hot summer day. Be careful of what it is that you put inside yourself.
Yes, wish for clouds in your part of town today.
Exactly, and we'll speak again next week.
T-Radar there. It's now